In this episode of the Investors Corner, kindly sponsored by the Survey Network this week, we welcome Umesh Kalra. Umesh has built an enormous property empire within residential property, HMOs and standard buy-to-lets. To find out how he went from a 9-to-5 into property investing full-time and now runs an entire property network supporting other investors, please set aside an hour to listen and learn how Umesh decided he was going to run a property investment empire with a purpose in mind. And that's the key to this episode. So, without further ado, let's get on with the episode.
Just going back to the HMO thing then. So, when people talk about HMO to this day, you've got some people that still think that HMOs are some type of crowded property, not in the best condition, and they're just a complete nightmare. But I think we're now at a stage where most HMOs, I mean, you get your sort of luxury HMOs. I mean, we do podcasts with another HMO investor, and he's got sort of luxury living ones where he rents out each room for grand a month.
Yeah, same price to rent a one-bedroom flat.
Yeah, very local. We've got other ones, another HMO investor that we speak to where it's just sort of standard HMOs, nice, clean, modern, probably gets around $750 a month for each room. So we've moved on from HMOs that were 15 years ago to now where they're completely different. And the interest in sort of room lets seems to be happening a lot more. There's been a massive increase in people taking rooms because where we're at with the normal buy-to-let properties, where they've become unaffordable for a lot of people out there, and because rents have increased, where they can go into rent a room in a property where they've got company, they've got great communal areas, and it works better for them. It's more of a sort of hotel type
setup, without the bill,
and you get your broadband included, you get your bills included. So there's been a lot more interest in that. So has HMO become the investment strategy for property now to get your bigger returns, or is there still a place for normal buy-to-let properties? Because we know that the margins are very, very small now for landlords on normal buy-to-lets. And, I've spoken to people recently where they've gone from buy-to-lets now into HMOs with the guidance of an expert with them, not just making a jump straight into it, because there's a lot more that needs to happen with HMO, a lot more regulations and a lot more things that need to be done setup wise. But do you think the HMOs is the route if you've got money in the bank?
No, I don't. I actually think it's a mixed portfolio, and I actually think that there's a strategy, because it all comes down to what is the purpose you're trying to solve. So this is where I've learned is what problem are you actually trying to solve? If you've got cash in the bank and the problem is it's doing nothing, then, and let's say you've got a really nice juicy business, juicy job, it's earning lots of money. You don't need more cash flow. You don't need HMOs to give you lots more cash flow. What you probably need is to protect that wealth, protect that income, and just let it grow and not get deflated by inflation. So actually single lets have a place. But also single lets are amazing products, because if we think about it, we're looking at HMO and we're saying, we're as a property investor, what are the best returns we can get? Single let or HMO? HMO all day, let's do it as a property investor. But lots of people are not property investors. They are just protecting the cash that they've got, or they're trying to build something for the future. So I was having a conversation 2 weeks ago at a wedding, and that was like, how much does the wedding cost? It's like close to £120,000. It's like this function that we're at now, and the lead up to it, the 1 week's worth of wedding festivals was close to £120,000. So for me, I was like, cha-ching, right. When you have a child and you think, right, my child's 4 years old and I'm going to probably get him or her married at 28 to 30, right? Do you know what you want to do? You want to grab $100,000 and you want to buy a single buy-to-let, and you want to forget about it, because in 20 years, it would have gone up double, triple that amount. And that is your cash.
It's paid for.
Done. So it's like, it does have, and you don't need the income every month, whereas a HMO is great because it produces the income. and you can invest and invest. And if you're getting into property, that might be a way of doing it. So we kind of developed this complete wealth strategy, which is, what is the purpose you're trying to solve? So, my kids are 7 and 11, and they both go into private education. And I was like, right, I'm going to have to solve this problem. So
50k years required.
50k years required. Yeah. So guess what? My grandparents were all about me getting my grandfather. Sorry, not my grandfather. My father-in-law was always about making sure you're doing stuff for your kids. And for him, it was do proper property. And I did Swansea property. So guess what? I built up a portfolio, and that fully funds my kids' private education. That's theirs. They don't own the property, but they own the income that comes out.
Yeah.
And that is what we spend on them. And then the next problem I had was, I'm going to need to find, I know my job's not going to last forever. And okay, I'm on lucrative rates, but that's not the point. It's going to, and I'm good thing I moved away when I did, because now, my jobs are all over the world. Mm-hmm. So, and that was amazing, because then my next journey was build a portfolio that can fund our lifestyle. I did that. Then it was, right, now build a portfolio that's going to pay for my kids' future if they get married. What funds am I going to need? So I built a portfolio for them. Now I'm building another one, which is going to fund our travel and our fun and pleasure, because that stuff you can live without for a little while. But at some point you want it. So someone said to me the other day, what are you building for yourself? And I'm like, it's another portfolio that is going to fund our fun money or travel money.
Yeah.
And it's got to have a purpose. So based on the purpose, you would then get the right type of property. Is it a single buy to let? Is it a HMO? Is it a commercial premises? And based on your risk profile as well. Do you really want to operate a property business, or do you just want the outcome from what property gives you? Which is where most people want.
Yeah.
They want the outcome.
Yeah.
Do you go to a restaurant and really want to learn how they make your food, and you just want it served, right?
Yeah, if the chef comes out and starts telling me how he's going to saute it, I don't care. Just bring it out.
Exactly. So that's the same thing. People get into property and they start learning about it. And that's why training courses are so great out there and they're doing so well, is because guess what? When you were born, what's been happening every single day of your life since you were born? Learning. So it's in your DNA. So all you know is learning. So you're attracted to learning. And so training companies come along and they want to teach you, and you're naturally gravitated towards it. And naturally you need to try and learn how to do property. Really, if you really ask yourself and look in the mirror and you say, do I really want to learn that thing? You probably don't want to learn it. You just want the output from it.
Yeah.
But no one's going to do it for you because you think it's too much that someone's going to do it for you. But now you've got companies out there, we've got a portfolio builder where there's literally genuine companies out there building portfolios for clients. That is their business model, because they know that they're serving a purpose.
Yeah.
And I think this is where property investment goes from, mom and pop kind of landlord to business. And I think it's where small businesses turn into proper businesses, because in 2025, a business has to have a purpose. Otherwise, it doesn't go anywhere. It's like, why are you starting your estate agency? Why are you starting your plumbing business? Why, it's like, if it's just to get away from my boss, that's cool. I'm all for it. That's great. But you're just getting yourself a job.
That's it.
Again,
just getting another job.
But you just don't have to answer to anybody else, and you just have to make sure you're motivated. If you've got a genuine reason that I'm starting this plumbing business because everybody is served wrong, nobody is helped, and all the companies are just serving themselves, and I can do it better. This is how I'm going to change it. I don't know anything about plumbing. All I know is that my water keeps getting switched off at home. It's because I can do it and I can make it. So everybody pays me $29.99 a month and blah, blah, blah. Then you're going to grow a business because you've got a vision of how it's going to work. And you're talking in the same way with property. It's business. It's not.
Exactly.
It's a totally different way of looking at it. Is most people will go, right, okay, well, I've got a 50k inheritance, or I've saved this money. What should I do with it? I'll buy a buy to let. Without the education, the thinking, the rational. Why do I need it?
Why do I need it?
Well, I don't know. Dave's got one.
Yeah, he's doing all right.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
I guess that's the level of research. I know you go out with investors on viewings all the time, and they say, "Oh, the estate agent told me I'll get $2,000 a month for that, so I'm going to make an offer." And you're like,
Yeah.
"What the guy said? Did he?
Yeah.
Cool. Like that's you trusted that?
Yeah.
Like, Div, what have you done?
Yeah.
Like, because I'm telling you, it's not a 2,000, it's 1,500. Like, you're mad if you've made an offer based on what the guy said.
Yeah.
But again, that's because they haven't come from an investment attitude, right? And we're people, so we're very trusting of what we hear. And then you got to farm that, what's the truth and what's not. And, you hear today a lot of property people, they have deal stackers and they have to assess the deal and does it meet the criteria? Well, the criteria is do the numbers crunch up.
Yeah.
But an investor or someone who's not an investor, somebody who's buying property who now classifies themselves as an investor, they don't have that deal analysis.
No.
They're not looking at it from that perspective. It's like, is it going to earn me £200 a month? Is it going to earn me £800 a month? Oh, great. But what's the actual return? 1%. Okay, well, they're not looking at it from an investment perspective. And I think property is still a people's game. There was something that I often remind myself on. My mother, when we were growing up, every Sunday we used to go to cash and carry. And on Sundays we used to go cash and carry. We'd buy a whole load of grocery, flours, butter, all the raw ingredients that you'd have. And we'd bring it back home, but my mum would take a section of it out. So if she bought a pack of 24 1 kilo bags of sugar, she'd take like 5 or 6 out. If she bought 30 washing up liquids, she'd take 6 to 10 out, and she'd create this pile of ingredients. And we would deliver that to a charity in London, and that would always go to them. So every week we donated food that they could cook to serve. And my mum used to say, "Mum, why are we doing this for? It's hard work. Come on, I'm an 8-year-old and I don't want to be doing all." But she said, "Look," she goes, "if you feed people, you'll never go hungry." That's what she used to say to me. If you feed people, you'll never go hungry. And I was like, is that why Indians are always overweight? Because we just feed them? And I was overweight as a child, right? And my mum would always say to me, like, do some exercise and what have you. And it's like, and I think to myself, is that why we're overweight? Because we're just eating all the time. And so I had this thing in the back of my mind, right, for years and years. When your parents drum something into you and you ignore it, but it still sits there.
Yeah.
If you feed people, you'll never go hungry. If you house people, you'll never go homeless. And it's like, actually, now what purpose are you serving? Are you serving the purpose of, I want to create loads and loads of cash, I want to go and get 500 HMO rooms and whatever? Or actually, are you providing a safe place for the people that can't afford a house? And if that's the case, then you're building something completely different. Our single buy-to-lets that we do, you would not believe the quality of them. They're really high-end quality single buy-to-lets. They're all singing and dancing. But most importantly, our tenants get the ability to walk in, and if they want a room repainted, we get it repainted for them. Yeah. And we do it for them because we're like, we will. And sometimes their children want to do it, and we go and get the paint and we say, crack on, and we let their kids paint the room, because we know that actually we think we want, we think that we need good tenants. It's the other way around. Tenants actually need good landlords. They need a landlord that's going to understand that they're a family that want to live their life and not
where it's their home. Right?
Where it's their home. Yeah. And that's the bit where you can then say, well, actually, the product is the product. You got to, who's your client? And your client is the tenant. It's not anything else. It's not the property. It's the tenant.
Yeah, no, that's good, because I think we forget about sort of it being a home for a tenant. I mean, we certainly don't forget about it, but you've got some people out there, some landlords out there where they rent it privately, where they just think that, well, it's my home and these are my rules, and if you want to live here, you've got to do X, Y, and Z, when really it's not your home anymore. You've chose to rent that home out to another family to live in there, so now it's their home, and that's what some people forget. So with your expertise, Umesh, I mean, what makes a successful HMO and what makes a successful buy to let for you? If you had to go out and get one, what would you be looking? What would you be looking at?
Oh, there's lots of things. There's absolutely lots of things. So I think it depends on the purpose again. So if you were to get like what you have to define what success means to you as an individual. So if success to you means getting the best return for your money, then you'd probably go down getting a HMO property that gives you the most amount of returns. And you might be looking at social housing, you might be looking at supported living, you might look at emergency housing, you might be looking at, you know, the vulnerables, you might be looking at all of those avenues that might not, you know, that's the tenant type that is going to pay the most amount of money for your, you know, lowest grade product that you've got. So if that's what you're after, then you have to just kind of work out what does success look like. If you're saying, well, actually, like in my case, I'll talk about mine, we're looking for setting up in our professional HMOs, we want our tenants to be there as a home, and we want them to be able to have a stepping stone. So they don't pay the stupid high prices, but then again, they do pay high prices for the area. It's the highest in the area, but it's not the highest that they can't afford to live there, and they get the support. So our tenants get a well-being package. They get 14 days of meditation. They get a well-being focus course that they get to go on. They get a coach that they can go and see once a month for climbing sessions, for outdoor activities. These are the things that these young professionals need because we're just constantly stressed with all sorts of distractions. Mm-hmm. That's my tenant type. So because that's my tenant type, for us, we look at a successful HMO as one that can go up to 10 years without that level of refurbishment. That's not going to be the case if I go and maybe put the type of tenants that are likely to smash the place up. So are you looking at instant? Because we look at the instant is the cash flow coming in, and does it serve the bills, and is there profit, and what is the profit margin? And then we look at, okay, what's the medium term for this? What's the long term for that product? Can I take it out 10 years? Can I take it out 15 years? Will that design of that conversion, because when we do our own projects, is that design of that conversion going to last the test of 10 years and go beyond? And obviously the numbers. From an investment perspective, we look at the numbers. From a sustainability perspective, we look at how long will that product last us? And then from a tenant perspective, we look at, are tenants out there that are needing that product? Are we going to be serving them? If we give them that product, is it good for them? If it's not good for them, but we can sell it to them, it doesn't really work because it will just come back to you. So there's a massive combination of things that we look at, and our criteria, you know, you've got, if you're in IT and you're a technical person, you're looking at, you know, technical requirements, and you're looking at your functional and non-functional. And this is the same thing. We've got those that are tick, 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 tick. And then you've got those that are from a social standpoint perspective. And the buy-to-let's exactly the same. Buy-to-lets for us are numbers and the tenant type that we want to go for. Is that property likely to double in value over 10 years? Is that property going to be cash flowing for us positively for the next 5 years? That's what we look at from a numbers perspective. And all of our single buy-to-lets do.
Do you tend to go... Obviously, I assume that you got a sort of mixture of buy-to-lets, with it being family homes, apartments. But is there one particular that you tend to sway towards more? Because for us, especially being in the area that we're in, we tend to find that family homes are probably a better investment with, you know, 2-bed terrace, 3-bedroom terrace house. Obviously, it's a lot more sort of costing to start with, but we see that, you know, the traction that you potentially get off those properties in 10 years' time, you probably get more capital growth on them compared to an apartment, where we've seen apartments around here where, you know, they could have been bought 5 years ago, you know, newer build apartments, and they paid a price, and now they're coming up to wanting to sell the apartment, but it's on a 40 grand less than what they paid for it. As in, normally with the sort of family homes, you wouldn't really tend to get that, not that we can see anyway. So for me, I'd be going down the family route, but I know cash is, you know, you've got to have the cash to do that. But for you, do you just sort of go whatever makes a sensible investment we go with, or?
No. So that's a really good question as well, actually, because so we've got a complete wealth system that we apply to our clients, but we also apply it to ourselves and to our own employment, our own portfolios. And we look at stable and secure, which is generally low yielding. And then we look at dynamic and reliable. And then that's generally high yielding stuff, so like HMOs. And when we're looking at our single buy to lets and we're looking at we call these type of properties pillar properties, because they are not going to give you high amounts of cash flow, but over a long period of time, they're going to double, triple in value. Apartments don't fall into that. Apartments don't really fall into any of these two brackets. They might only just fall into the accelerator assets for us, which is like SA, HMOs, things like that, because they are high yielding, but don't expect any capital growth. And if you do, happy days. HMOs, I think they have, because traditionally they're houses that have been converted, so they have still got a lot of capital growth in them. But on our single buy to lets, one of the criteria is what price are you buying it at? So are we buying our single buy to lets way below the UK average house price? So we don't spend more than 200, 220 on a single buy to let. And we buy things that are around the 180 to 220 mark. We know that they are very likely to double over 10 years because A, they're below the UK average house price. B, we know the UK average house price is going to double over a 10-year period. So the likelihood of that happening is very, very, very high. And C, we're buying this type of houses that 50 years ago, our families would have been looking for, which is a 3-bed, 3-bed terrace semi. And 50 years later today, when we look for, what families, what type of house are they looking to buy, it's your 2-3-bed terraces and your semis. Yeah. So those houses, they sell all day, every day, all day, every day. So in 10 years, you've got multiple exits. So you definitely kind of have to weigh it up, but they're the type of single buy to lets that we do. If you then really want to go down into another level and you want to take a bit of a gamble and you say, right, well, how far can I go? And you say, right, well, now I'm going to start looking at buying stuff that is where the answer to this question is not, will it go up in value? It's when will it go up in value? And those type of properties are where you buy things that are below the build cost. If you were to buy this house, 3-bed end terrace for £100,000, and you said to yourself, do you know what, I'm going to knock it down, and you had to rebuild it that same very day, what would it cost you to build? And if it cost you 130,000, 150,000 to rebuild that house, and you say to yourself, the reinstatement value is 150,000 as well, the question isn't, will it go up in value? The question is, when? When will it go up? Because it has to go up.
Yeah.
You can't be selling houses at 100,000 that would cost you 150 to build today. The question for those houses is, when will it go up? And that will be when there's a market shift, when other sales go on in that area, when employment increases, and all of those different factors that take place. Generally, those type of houses are towards the northeast.
Yeah, so that feels more risky.
Correct.
Because, and you, I was about to say it, but you said it for me, was employment. Houses can only go down to those levels if employers leave an area and leave it absolutely bereft, right? We're thinking like mining communities, one employer towns here, I guess. You're obviously in that market and I'm not. And then you wait for an employer to come back in, but you need to jump before that employer turns up, or as that employer turns up, to take advantage of those prices. I'm thinking, North Wales, where the mines all closed down, slowly big employers, call centres, factories started being paid to go into those areas. My family's from the northeast. I know Nissan got millions of pounds to turn up in the northeast to replace the ship factories. So I guess you have to have your research, you have to be intelligent about it, or are you just taking a punt buying in these places on the basis that, well, something's going to turn up at some point?
So when you look at that, and that's what I say, that's like really, really long term, and you might not get that appreciation. So it is a bit of a high risk kind of.
You're thinking it might do nothing for 10 years and then suddenly go.
Yeah. And you got to look at it from another perspective. Depending on the area and the type of houses you're buying, and, generally it's going to be for families. So if you've got a 10-year-old in that area and you've got lots of 10-year-olds, in 10 years, they're going to be 20. When they're 20 And we're looking at the generation now, so the current 10-year-olds, in 10 years' time, are they going to be employed? Or are they going to be doing something else? Are they going to be looking for employment? Are they going to be looking for manual labor? Are they going to be the type of jobs they're going to have? Are they going to be relying on jobs that are actually from employers in the area? Maybe, maybe not. They'll be relying on income, but will their income come from employment? Their income could come from 100 different streams, and that's the world we're in today.
Yeah, we're at a crossroads now where if you own buy-to-lets right by Moneypenny's HQ in North Wales, well, they're a call centre that employs a couple of thousand people. I've heard some pretty good AI calls in the last 2 weeks.
There you go. Yeah.
Is that just a dumped gig in 3 years?
But that's where you'll probably see a dip, and then you'll see an incline again, because people still need to live.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, and lots of us live in the places that we live because of our family and our community around. So there'll be a reason why you're in that particular area. And when that reason doesn't serve your purpose, you'll move out and go somewhere else and build a new community, a new family, new members, and so on. So that's like to happen. You grew up in the Northeast, but your family's still there, and you're here. So there was a purpose for you to be here, and there's a reason for you being in this.
Yeah. Parents moved down because of economics, just made it better for them. Everything is a lot of people who from Newcastle, Sunderland, Middlesbrough, blah blah blah, who don't sound like it because they're second generation. Just like a lot of people came over from India, a lot of people came over from here, there, and everywhere. There's a lot of a north-south migrants in the same sense that they were like, well, it would be better to bring our kids up in Wokingham. It will cost us an absolute fortune to get there, but
there's some pros.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So that, I mean, there is a punt vid going that far up. We invest in the Midlands a lot, and the Midlands for us is it's near enough to get to, it's far enough to get decent returns, and yet you're serving a purpose for the people that you're housing. When I started first looking at rooms to rent myself in 2012, when I was doing that work for Santander, I couldn't find a decent room. Like, generally, my standards weren't even super high. I just couldn't find a decent room. They were like these multi-lets that we talked about, 20-year-old. They were astonishing. I was like, and I just had to go and stay in a hotel for a week. And I hated the hotel. And I said, I went back and I said to headquarters in Milton Keynes, I said, you know what? I'm just going to stay in Milton Keynes and I'm just going to commute up to Leicester when I need it. And I didn't bother getting a room. And then years later, when I'd gone through the HMO journey and I started investing, I was like, I'm going to change the landscape of HMOs in Leicester. And, you know, we've deployed 200 plus rooms there, and they've all been, you know, really shiny. They're kind of your high level hotel style. You walk in and you're like, oh, this is amazing. And all of our tenants, that's what we give them. Even some of our older properties, like 7 years old now, they're still smashing properties. They're brilliant. They're, you know, their upkeeps are kept up, but it's just how you balance that. And everyone's got different values.
Yeah. Do you do anything with commercial property?
We have done, yeah. So we've done some commercial to residential conversions, commercial to HMO. Yeah. And then we've got a commercial premises at the moment that we're still toying with what to do with.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because I've heard from sort of actual property investors that have been doing it for a long time, where they sort of go into the office buildings and
multi-layer,
but that now and let them out. So there seems to be an appetite for that route now as well, because you get some good returns on it, right?
But is that a property investor or is that a property developer?
Well, yeah, I'd say property developer rather than property investor. They've got certain arms to their company, but something that they, you know, weren't looking at before, they're now looking into that, and there seems to be more conversations happening around that as well. Hotspots. Have you got any golden nugget hotspots out there?
I mean, there's loads
for the listeners.
As in where to invest?
Where to invest.
Okay. So there's probably lots of tips on it, but it's not just about the location. Like, location is key, and you're looking at returns. It goes back to what we said, which is, what is it you're trying to achieve? Because it's based on what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
You might actually just be deploying your money because you want to home people, in which case there's a different type of investment you want to make. But if you are looking at areas and you're down south and your risk appetite is where you like to drive, should I be saying this on camera? You like to drive a 75 in the middle lane, right? If you're that type of person that wants to stay in the middle lane, where you've got the ability to slow down, you've got the ability to overtake, and you're that type of risk factor, then actually the Midlands is great because it's in the middle. Yeah. It's perfectly in the middle. You've got, if you look at the 5-year growth forecast, you've got the North being something like 29.5%. You've got the Midlands being like 26.5%. It's very marginal, but yet you're in the middle. It's near enough you can get to. It's far enough that you're getting your returns and you're not actually creating another job for yourself. Because if you're investing in property, what you're doing is you're putting your money somewhere where your money will grow and it's giving you a return. If you're now, the property is 2 streets away from where you live and the tap goes, you'll be like, oh yeah, I'll pop in on the way home. So you just create yourself another job.
Yeah.
And you haven't priced that in. Yeah, but I'm saving 50 quid. I'll just do it on the way home. Yeah, you can. But what are you doing? Are you just creating more money or are you actually investing in it? In the Midlands, if you're going to be looking, Colville's a hotspot. Colville's massively been growing over the last 5-7 years. Leicester's very good. There's a small town in Leicester called Elston, which is absolutely amazing for HMOs. It's got a lot of links. They left that bit out from the Article 4 area. So they literally extended Article 4 and they left this little corner out. And it was almost like, right.
There's a little arrow.
There's a little, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then you've got Hinckley's great for HMOs as well. The quality of HMOs in Hinckley is appalling. So the second you put something half good in, HMO officers are like, oh my God, we really needed this. The demand is off the hook. For every room you put on the market that's of today's standard, you've got about 6 to 10 applicants within a week. So that demand is very, very high. Colville's very good. Leicester we've already captured. You've got elements of Derby for single buy-to-lets, which are really, really good. Again, single buy-to-lets in Colville are very good. We haven't seen that much of a demand in Hinckley. And single buy-to-lets, the numbers are very tight in Leicester. So they're the areas that we're looking at. Professional HMOs that are very, 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 very high quality work are absolutely amazing in Melton Mowbray.
Right.
Yeah. So studio style rooms, they work amazing in Melton Mowbray. Yeah. You get £900 a room.
There you go. There's a fact for you.
Yeah. You can get £900 for a studio in Melton Mowbray. We get close to 800 in Leicester. We get close to 775 in Hinckley, and we get between 750 and 775 for a studio in Colville. And a studio is like 12 to 15 square meters, which has got a kitchen prep area. That's a studio with an ensuite. Obviously, inside, in the room is all mod con and all singing and dancing, but the numbers are great.
What would be the average? What's around the average sort of purchase price of a HMO in that area, though?
Very rarely will you find an all done up, nice singing and dancing one. Yeah. You're going to have to convert, and if you're going to convert, you're buying stuff for around, so call it Colville, between 180 and 200, and you're spending around 180 on the work to 200. You're getting valuations of 5 to 550.
Wow.
So you've Andy's decided it's coming out of crypto.
Yeah, coming out of crypto.
I think you might have to wait on that XRP. I checked XRP. You might have to wait on that. You might have to sit on it for a few months before you go in.
But again, there's like, how many HMOs do you want? And they should serve a purpose.
Yeah.
So even in your own wealth strategy, it's like, okay, you need 10 grand a month to live your life on. Okay, well, now what I want to do is I want to maybe do something that's accelerator. Maybe I'm going to get enough HMOs to give me my 10 grand a month. Maybe make it 12 to make the buffer for the increased costs and so on. Right, my HMOs are earning my 12 grand a month. Now I'm going to start doing things which are for profit, longer term things like single buy-to-lets and so on, because you don't need the cash flow, but you want the returns to just double, triple in value over the long term.
Yeah.
So you've got to have a purpose for it.
You got to have the goals there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have the last question if that's all right.
Go on, then, Mike. Go on.
Done it. We're done. We're almost. Well, yeah, I know. But literally, like, built this up now, haven't I? Yes, with the dampest squib. You've been there. You've done that across pretty much sort of all kinds of residential property. What's the motivation now to promote yourself, to tell other people to, or help other people doing it?
Yeah, so that is a really good question, actually.
Thanks.
The thing is, right, is that the journey never ends, right? So because the journey never ends, you build a house. You've got this home. You live in this beautiful home, and at some stage you'll be like, I need to add a conservatory onto it. Okay, I want a space, a playroom, or I want an office, and you'll constantly keep on extending it as much as you can for what you need. So when you think you've built this complete wealth system, you're constantly adding things to it because things change or things improve or other things come along that you need to fund or you need to work in. So what I would say is going back to kind of like answering it full on, you want to build a wealth platform. You want to be structuring it well. And most people don't know how to structure these things until it's too late.
Yeah.
So if you can get ahead of the curve and you can actually say, well, what is it I'm trying to achieve? Then you can actually find the people to do it for you. So in my case, if I had found somebody that was building HMO portfolios for me back in 2004, I probably would have got them to do it for me while I would have gone and hustled and done my day job that I really enjoyed that time and I still enjoy. So I'd say from my perspective, what we're doing is we're actually building these complete wealth systems. So if you came to me and said, hey, Umesh, look, I'm a doctor. I love what I do and I want to invest in property. We would try and understand what your targets are and what you want to achieve from it. And we'd build that portfolio for you. So we'd tell you what to do. We'd write and design the strategy for you with the end in mind. And the end could be a 5-year end, could be a 10-year end, could be a 20-year end. Based on that, we'd work backwards, design your strategy for you. And then we do the done for you service where we start building that strategy out for you. You own it, your assets, your structure, but we've just done all of the heavy lifting for you, which is where we need to be today, doing the heavy lifting, because you've got the training providers that will teach you how to become an amazing property investor and develop and let and manage and all the rest. But you've got those people that don't want to learn that. They just need the output. So we are the restaurant. Come to us, we'll make you your food.
Yeah. I feel like most property training courses, I've said a few things about property training courses in the past, haven't I?
Yeah.
They will teach you something fully in the knowledge that 95% of people in that room will never take action because that's just the way people are. But there's enough people out there who, like you say, a doctor's a great example. You can be pulling 60, 55 hours a week, and it's a vocation because the money ain't great in the UK, is it? To be an NHS doctor. And they need to do something, but they can't do something. So having someone in, I pay a financial advisor X percentage of my portfolio every single year to manage my portfolio without question.
Yeah.
So if you're going to do that in property, why
are you not using someone to do it for you?
Do the same. Yeah. It makes perfect sense.
We say it all the time, don't we? That having that power team around you, it's about having
it's accountability and it's getting things done.
The right person to guide you on ventures, and if that comes at a cost, well, that's a cost that's well paid because it's pointing you in the right direction, or getting you to the end goal that you want to get to. And that you set yourself, so why wouldn't you do?
Yeah, I think if you do it on your own, you'll buy two buy-to-lets, which are flats in 10 years, round the corner from your own house. If you sit down and make a plan with someone independent, and they keep monitoring you on it, you'll probably end up with 10 or 20 properties because there's some accountability, and that's where a lot of the value comes in of having that second person. I want to be first to thank you for coming in. We're not associated with you in any way. It's time that you've totally given up just to give us and the other people who listen to the podcast. So we really appreciate your time. Obviously, all the links to your personal socials will go at the bottom of the episode. So if you want to chat directly with Umesh, then obviously you can do. But from Andy and myself, Umesh, thanks for coming in. We really appreciate you taking the time to give a different perspective on property investing and the property business with us. And until 2 weeks' time, we'll see you then.
Amazing, and thank you so much, guys. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
It's been great.
Thank you.